I'm JD the Media Jack, and welcome to another edition of the Media Jack podcast, episode 4. Today's interview, it started off in a very entertaining and strange way, at least for me. It started off with someone I follow on TikTok. I've been following her for a while, and she put out a challenge.
Why haven't any of you asked me to be on a podcast? I hear it all the time, like, oh, everybody has a podcast nowadays, and I want to start my own. It sounds like a lot of work, but why hasn't anybody asked me to be on a podcast? I'm interesting. I was in the military. I worked in mental health for a decade. I'm fucking crazy. I'm funny. I just started. I'm certainly not an expert, but I also do sex work. I'm fascinating, bitches. Put me on a podcast.
Now, I honestly thought that I had asked her before and perhaps she was busy, but apparently I did not. So we're going to get into that and also the incredible story, the life story of Jenn in just a moment. Once again, thanks again to everyone on Patreon, as well as this episode's executive producer, Red Wolf Dawn. If you want to help out, it just costs a couple of bucks a month, and you can search for TheMediajack on Patreon. As well, since it's clear that I have a TikTok, I'm all over social media at TheMediajack. The easiest way to find everything, including the audio or video version of this podcast, if you want the alternative, is TheMediajack.ca website. Now, without further ado, it's episode 4 with Jenn. So I sincerely apologize. I totally thought I asked you before.
It's fine. It's no big deal. I listen to podcasts like constantly. Like if I'm driving or like around my house, like doing chores, doing pretty much anything, like I'm always listening to podcasts, and I was like, I want to be on one. Damn it.
We'll start off with basically, where were you born and what was your initial upbringing like?
I've lived in New Hampshire my whole life, hence the New Hampshire tattoo. What was my upbringing like? It was weird. I had a special needs sister. My brother and I both had like ADHD. My brother had way more learning disabilities than I did. Just our upbringing was chaos. My dad traveled a lot for work, and then my mom went to get her master's degree. So there was often like, even though both parents were in the house, there was often like only one parent around. It was just a lot of chaos all the time. We grew up like medium poor. I say that, and then there's often like a poverty Olympics. Like it wasn't poverty. We didn't need like any assistance or anything like that, but generic brands, shopping at Salvation Army, stuff like that. We used to come home and have like hand-me-downs on the porch. I always thought that like anything else that other people had, it was because they had money. Like literally anything, like fruit roll-ups. I was like, those rich people and their fruit roll-ups. But yeah, both my parents are educators. My mom's a librarian. My dad's he was an engineering professor. So academics were always like really important in my house.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to upbringing, and like you look at like other people, you look at their cars, you look at their clothing, you look at fruit roll-ups in their lunches and stuff like that. As a child, you kind of think like, he must be rich. When in all honesty, like you have no idea, honestly, what it is that they're going through. For all you know, those fruit roll-ups that you saw could have been that one splurge that they had that month, and that's it. And they're living almost like borderline the same as you, and you're not hungry, you're not starving, you're not like going to work in tattered clothing, but you're getting by.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. The things that I thought meant that people were rich didn't make any sense. Like because we were Protestant, I did grow up like in the church, but I have no religious trauma. But I thought that all Catholic people were rich because there was, next to my church, there was a Catholic church that had a private school attached to it. And so I was like, private school, Catholic people are wealthy. Like it didn't make any sense. It was just in my mind. But then I also had friends who they always got their clothes at the mall, but sometimes I'd go to their house and they'd be like, oh, we can't hang out here. My electricity got turned off. So, I mean, my parents were very careful about living within their means, but that just means we didn't have a whole bunch of stuff, but we always had what we needed.
Yeah. That was always the important part, and that's something that I look back on, even on my own family and my own parents, and look back and see that, there were times where we were probably struggling more than I'll ever conceive. I'll ever realize, but there was always food in the fridge and a roof over our head, and there was always we always had something to do on the weekend, and it cost nothing to go to the park. So, poor, rich, doesn't matter. I was still, just an oblivious, happy child.
Yeah, my mom worked at a children's museum when I was little.
Nice.
Which was so cool to just live in a children's museum pretty much. Up until I started going to school, I was just always at a children's museum. That's a really cool way to grow up.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said that you were diagnosed with ADHD and your siblings as well, and one of your siblings had actually more working against them. How was that diagnosed, and were you aware of what that meant when you were told this?
So I think I was initially diagnosed when I was maybe 7, I think, which is it's really interesting now to watch. I mean, now there's such a large conversation about ADHD, autism, all of that type of thing. Now some people are borderline proud, but it's just everyone's yeah, this is a thing that I have. I did know that it made me very distractible. I knew that it affected my mood because one of the things that's co-occurring with ADHD is that, especially in children, it can lead to outbursts and anger. And so I knew that it affected it in that way. I didn't really know the specifics, but I think I started medication 4th or 5th grade, something like that. So I knew that I had to take a pill in order to go to school. And then in middle school, I would start talking about it and people were like, that's weird. Because at that time, in the late 90s, middle school was the early 2000s. Nobody was talking about it, and it was so hard for girls to get diagnosed with ADHD.
Really?
So oh yeah. Up until recently, it's been a lot harder because it presents a lot differently. A lot of times it's more of instead of the hyperactivity, it's more of inattentive. So instead of it being the hyperactivity presentation, it's a lot more inattentive. So they just say, she's a space shot, but she's not running around, so she must not have ADHD. And I was definitely more of the inattentive type of thing. Okay. So it's a lot harder. Well, it was a lot less common when I got diagnosed for girls to get diagnosed. So when I was diagnosed, I was bizarre for it. It made me stand out. I got bullied for a lot of stuff, but that was part of it, which it's interesting because now I watch the kids who are in middle school and high school, and they're able to get these diagnoses so much easier, and it's not a big deal. And I'm so happy for them, but at the same time, I'm I don't want to do damn it.
Why couldn't it have been that easy for me?
Right. I look at a lot of the reasons that I was kind of teased growing up, and now all that shit is cool. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the thing for anything when we were younger, like this. I'm wearing a Reverse Flash Zoom t-shirt. If I were to wear something like this when I was back in high school, I would have got picked on mercilessly. Now this is the cool thing, Yeah. Completely different from being diagnosed with something, but still, it's those things you look back and go I got hammered hardcore because of that. Now it's the coolest thing ever. Yeah.
I feel especially with because I've never been into anime, but I feel it's way more acceptable now to be into anime because when I was younger, it was those were the weird kids. Don't talk to them. They like anime. And now it's widely accepted for people to be into anime. That's great. Good for you guys. I'm not into it, but that's awesome.
Yeah, you get picked on if you don't know who Naruto is.
Yeah, don't pick on me for not knowing anything about anime because I know nothing.
Oh, I'm behind the ball on this one too. I'm barely catching up. So, were you athletic or were you a scholar in high school? No.
Oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss.
No, I'm already. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I am not. I'm so uncoordinated. It is laughable how uncoordinated I am, which is I recently found out that probably part of that is because I do have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which I think I pronounced that incorrectly, but it doesn't matter. But I'm laughably uncoordinated. I was in the marching band in high school. I was in the color guard, which is dance and stuff, but that's more muscle memory than actually needing to be coordinated.
Right.
I also wasn't an academic. I almost failed out of high school. I was like, this is boring as hell. I'm not going to go. So especially after my mom moved out, because my mom moved out when I was 16. And then it was just like me and my dad, and he was like, I don't know what to do with here. There's like a 16-year-old in my house. Well, what do I do with you? You're a girl.
Were you always here?
Yeah. He was doing his best, but he also just like was kind of just in his own little world. So I would just be like, yeah, school's boring. I'm tired. I'm not going to go. I would be up until, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock reading books in my room.
Right.
But not if those books had anything to do with school. I never did my homework. I hated school. So I almost failed out of high school.
Interesting. So you were into literature, just not the recommended reading.
Yes.
So what did you read then?
Oh God, I don't remember what I read in high school. I mean, that's even a hard question for me to answer now.
Really?
Because I'm not into like, I don't know what genres I'm into. It's mostly like just novels, and I was reading The Parable of the Sower. It's gone now. I was reading it yesterday and I can't find it, which is so typical of me.
What was it? What's The Parable of the Sower?
It was written in I think 99, and it's like a dystopian thing. It's kind of set like now and like the next coming years, and with all dystopian stuff, since it's kind of like looking at where we're projected that we might be going. Like there are some things that are very similar, but it's about, without getting like too in depth, it's about a Black family. They have like the dad is a pastor, so it does go into like a little bit of religion, and the author, the narrator is the daughter of the family, and she kind of talks about her wanting to protect her family in this dystopian society, and also her relationship with God. And I'm not religious at all, but it's a beautiful book. If I can find it.
I know that feeling. Trust me.
That's why I don't finish most of my books, because I put them down somewhere. I was reading it at a restaurant last night, and now it's gone. I even called the restaurant, and I was like, hey, is that there? And the guy was like, no. I was like, all right.
Great. Well, if you happen to find it, don't turn the pages. I don't want to lose my spot. So, all right. High school, not athletic, barely academic, into reading, but only on your own terms. How did that Jenn turn into military Jenn?
Oh, that's a bizarre one. So I actually joined the military after I graduated college.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after high school, I was not getting into college. Like that wasn't even an option for me.
Right.
So my mom found this thing called City Year, which is through AmeriCorps, and it was very like white savior, like a bunch of middle class white kids are going to go into the inner city and save the children, which looking back on it, I'm like, oh, that is very cringe. But in 2006, I was like, I'm saving the world. So I moved to Philly for a year.
Okay.
And I worked in Center City, Philadelphia, which is not, I worked at a really nice school. Like it was a charter school. I worked at a really nice school. So I don't know. That school only had the contract for 1 year, and I think they were like, we don't need these people here. So everybody else is like, oh, my students are all struggling so much. And I was like, yeah, my students are doing great.
I'm just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic. They get so much support. But yeah, I was the curriculum coordinator.
Okay.
For our after school program at 18 years old. Then I decided I wanted to apply to go to college, and I decided I was going to do it as a surprise, which I would not recommend. Funding is a thing. Yeah. And my parents kept asking me, like, what are you going to do next year? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll stay here another year. And they're like, but you hate it. And I'm like, yeah, weird, right? So I applied to college completely by myself. And I had contacted a few schools, and the school that I ended up going to was the only place I applied. And I said, listen, this is what I'm doing. And the college said, okay, service is really important to us. So if you just put together a little portfolio of what you've done while you've been there, we'll review it, and we'll use that like as instead of like going to community college and submitting your transcripts, like just show us what you're doing. Right. So I put together like a portfolio of a month worth of curriculum, and I submitted it in like December. And they got back to me, they're like, this is so impressive for what you've been doing for the past 3 months. And I was like, no, that is 1 month of my curriculum. And they were like, oh shit, you're accepted.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So then I went to school, psychology, graduated. And when I was going to graduate, I was thinking about joining the Navy. And then they wanted me to just like leave school. I had 1 semester left, and they were like, oh, just go to boot camp and then come back and you can be in the reserves in school. And I was like, I have 1 semester left. Kind of forgot about it. But I really wanted to work. What my ultimate goal was, which is no longer my goal, is that I wanted to work with veterans who were experiencing some sort of struggle with substance abuse.
Right.
And as now that I'm currently a veteran, it is very hard to gain the trust of somebody who's a veteran if you are not one. And so I was like, they're not gonna, especially I look so young and I have this kind of like mean but bubbly personality, but I was like, they're not gonna let me into the club if I'm not one of them, so I'll just become one of them. I also met my ex-husband. We were working together at a psych hospital. He was security and I was a mental health worker. And so when we started dating, he's like, oh, I'm in the process of joining the National Guard. And I was like, well, you're not going to be the biggest badass in the family. So I was like, join the Navy. Like it was those 2 things. I was like, I want to be part of this club, and I can't let my future husband, now ex-husband, one up me. So I'm going to do it too. And I did.
Interesting. Holy smokes. That is quite the bumpy road.
Everything I've ever done has just been like completely like, I think I'm going to try and do this thing. And then I just kind of like give it a go, see how it turns out.
You know what? What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to go to boot camp and not make it through. Oh no, I'll get sent home. Like,
I might have lost a few pounds and maybe sweat a bit. And oh wow, yeah, no, that's fair. You were working in a mental health institute.
So it was I was working at a psych hospital. So I got hired part-time on the detox unit because I have a degree in psychology, but I also have an associate's degree in chemical dependency. I got them at the same time. And so I started working part-time on the detox, but then because they were so understaffed and I needed to work more than part-time, I started just picking up shifts on all the different units. So not only did I get to work in chemical dependency, which is, something I still care very deeply about, but I was also able to kind of experience what it's like to work with people who experience like SPMI, which is severe and persistent mental illness. So that's stuff like bipolar disorder. Surprise. I was one of them and I didn't know.
Walker, my people.
Yeah. Like bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, schizoaffective, all of that type of stuff. And it was fascinating.
How is it that you find this fascinating though?
I think it's, there's and it's getting better now, but there's such an idea of like what quote unquote those people are like. And I'm saying across the board. So working with people who experience addiction, working with people who have, suicidality, SPMI, all of those things. There's such an idea of what those people are like. And then being able to really interact with people one-to-one and seeing them not as their diagnoses, but as the individual was A, so eye-opening, and B, just like fun. It's fun, to see people beyond the stereotype of who they are. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. Yeah, this is actually something I was kind of hoping you would lead into, because people who suffer from a mental illness or an addiction, or even are leaning towards or have attempted at one point in time suicide, like the ripple effect around them is massive and it's impactful. And to be able to sit down and actually have a one-on-one and not poke and prod, but get to know that person, their background, their mental road is, and just kind of venture down it with them. Like it is the epitome of an unexplored universe, because the way I see something, the way you see something, the way someone else sees something is completely different. And so someone who is trying to live day by day, moment by moment, while dealing with something as heavy as any one of those things is, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, an adventure unto itself, because it is completely different from a day-to-day, quote-unquote, normal life that anyone else would live. So I totally understand what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, especially, so being that I was a mental health worker, I wasn't a therapist. So it would be inappropriate for me to constantly be talking to my clients like, so how are you getting through your day? I would just joke around with them, talk to, that was my job. It was not my job to treat them. It was my job to just get them through their day. So taking them to lunch, getting them anything they need, all of that stuff. I would run groups, but which is probably doing a huge disservice to the clients. But I was, the mental health workers at that point was all they had. And it was very like basic stuff, but I really wasn't dealing with their diagnoses in any way. I was just dealing with their person, not dealing with, but interacting with them as humans.
Right.
It was, I would say the most difficult thing about especially the detox is that people would leave. First of all, they were only there for, I think at the time, opiate detox, the average stay was like 4 to 5 days. And then for alcohol, it was like 7-ish days. And then we would get them aftercare and they would just, this is just the detox.
Right. Okay.
And opiate detox does take more than 4 to 5 days, but generally we would get them stabilized on Suboxone and then we would send them somewhere for aftercare. So that was just kind of like the medical part of it.
Right.
And people would leave and you would never see them again. And you don't know if it was a good result or a bad result. And that was always hard. But aside from that, it was great. It was just fun. My clients, I have left the mental health community. Like, I never want to work in mental health now, but that is not because of the clientele. I have always loved my clients, even while dealing with compassion fatigue, which happens to everyone.
Right.
I've always really loved my clients, which is probably because I was relating to them more than I realized.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. I also like to make self-destructive decisions. Hey!
Welcome to human life.
Yeah.
The Navy. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that go?
I don't like to run. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to run. I don't want to do those ruck marches. And if you run long enough on a ship, you'll just fall off. So then it was either the Navy or the Air Force. And I had a bunch of friends who were in the military, and they were like, if you're in the Air Force, you're a nerd. And I was like, I've done enough nerdy shit in my life. I'm gonna join the Navy. It's more process of elimination than anything else.
Right. But was it a positive experience, a negative experience? Did you take anything from it?
Oh, it was the worst.
It was the worst.
It was awful. Yeah, I'm not built for the military. I'm not built to not question things. I'm not built to not, logic my way through things. And, the way,
yeah.
In the military, they take this is the solution that makes sense. And then we're going to do the opposite, but then screw that up a little bit and then do the opposite of that. And then throw that plan out and do something else entirely. Like, the military just does not make any sense. And I was always like, oh my God. And a lot of the things that they wanted us to do, I was just like, well, why do you want me to do that? And because we want you to. So all those optional things, like getting warfare devices, I was like, I'm not doing that. And but you should. Well, why? How is it going to help me?
Because you should.
Because you should.
Yeah, I don't miss it either. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course, I was a reservist and I was a master at arms, which is essentially military police for the Navy. And there was a lot of people who were police officers on the outside, and there was a lot of anti-female stuff. There was a lot of racist stuff that they would be saying either behind my back or in front of me. I was on my second deployment. I was deployed when the whole Brett Kavanaugh thing was happening, and I heard people say absolutely heinous things about women. And meanwhile, every single woman I know in the military has either been sexually assaulted, at a minimum sexually harassed, and like multiple times a day. And you can't report that shit unless you have cold hard proof. You can't report it, and even if you do, you're gonna get called a liar. It was the way that, don't get me wrong, some of the people that I love the most I met in the military, absolutely, but also I had some really shitty experiences. And I actually think, in comparison to like other traumas, if you just look at the actual incident, it pales in comparison. But then the people that you're with in the military, you work with them, you are social with them, you eat in the same place as them, like you just can't avoid them. So it's a reoccurrence daily. And I think that's what was really difficult about it.
One thing to deal with is that it doesn't matter where you go and who you associate with, what company you're with or organization or anything like that. There are always going to be problems because humans are just humans. You know, they're good, they're bad. There's a giant gray area in between. And some people are kind-hearted and some people are despicable, and they're going to take advantage of whatever or whoever they can. What the major difference is pressure. When you're dealing with military, when you're dealing with a company, like, I mean, in the military sense, a company where you are under extreme stress, close quarters, and the whole deal, things get ramped up real quick. And so, like I understand what you mean, and maybe others won't, but like I get it. And being someone who has worked in different industries across the board, there are too many similarities when it comes to troubled people, bad actors, and issues and stuff like that. It never goes away. It's just how bad the pressure and the stress is that amplifies it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, in the Navy, everything's just too bad, so sad. Sucks to suck.
Yeah.
So, and I did report harassment one time because I had the screenshots of the harassment. And that actually went fairly well, but the more kind of intense things that I experienced, I didn't have the proof of. And if I had even like a little, like if I just had like a little thing that I could be like, well, look at this, you might report something, say this person does a bad thing to me, and then I report it to these people, but this person's best friends with this person, and this person gets to decide things about my career.
Yeah.
It's so political, and so every single thing that you do has the reaction to it is so much bigger than what it would be somewhere else. And it made me, I mean, people will say to me all the time, like, you just like go for people and like you don't take any shit. And it's because once I got out of the Navy, I was like, what's gonna happen? What are they gonna do? Be mean to me? Like, it's not gonna affect my career in any way.
Yeah.
I had a guy that I worked with, like, after I got out of the Navy, like, texted me something like, thinking about you right now at like 8:00 at night. And my reaction was just like, that's not something you say to a coworker. And it was just so immediate for me, because I was like, what's he gonna do? Go to my boss and be like, hey, I texted her at 8:00 at night that I was thinking about her, and she told me I was being inappropriate. And my boss would be like, yeah, you are being inappropriate. But
surprise.
yeah, in the Navy, they could do that, and they would be like, oh, she's such a bitch, and why would she say that? And you were just being nice, you were being polite. Like, it's so different.
Yeah.
Not that I was ever like corporate, but working in the quote unquote real world, it's so much easier to deal with that shit, because it's like, even if you don't report it, you can definitely take care of it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So let's transition to something a different
Happier
world, a different avenue, a different adventure. You made the life-changing decision to download TikTok.
Yeah.
Look at the instant regret right there. Come on.
No, it's fun. I mean, it really is fun. I mean, actually, when I first downloaded TikTok before I started making videos,
Right.
I started watching these videos and I was like, I can do this.
Really?
I bet I will be successful on this app because it's very quippy. At the time, the videos were only a minute long max,
Right.
and now they're 3 minutes long. Like, I knew
They're
that
10 minutes long now.
Oh God, no! I will never. I can't. But yeah, so I just started saying dumb shit into my phone, and a lot of it was just like, I live alone. I've lived alone for 5 years now.
Right.
And there are some times that I watch something and I'm like, I need to have a reaction to this in the moment, and Maverick doesn't speak English. And even if he did, I don't think he would care.
Yeah.
And so I just started screaming those opinions out into the universe, and sometimes they would catch on, and I don't have, it's very weird because I have friends with really large accounts.
Right.
So for me, 40,000 followers is like nothing. In my mind, I'm like, everybody has that. Duh.
I'll speak for yourself.
Yeah, that's very much not the case. And then I hang out with like people in the real world, and my friggin' sister-in-law loves to tell people, oh, she's internet famous. I'm like, can you shut the fuck up? But yeah, I mean, now I'm doing this, and my favorite part about it is definitely like the interaction with people that I have. If it was just like making videos, posting them, and nobody ever responded to them, I would stop doing it. That's not fun for me.
Right.
I like that I can bounce ideas off of people and like put a video out and be like, hey, what do we think about this? And sometimes people will tell me that I'm wrong about things, and I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely wrong about things. I also think that, I mean, there is so much stuff. This is outside of my channel. I have learned so much stuff on TikTok where, yeah, it's only a little snippet, but it's enough that I can go and do my own research.
Yeah.
And I have a jumping off point, which I think for a lot of time we did not have jumping off points for, like, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So that's my favorite part about, being on the app.
So downloaded TikTok, started watching some videos and thinking to yourself, you know what? I can do this. When was the first time you realized, like, I think I actually have a handle on this?
There was the first time I kind of the first video that I had that like got any attention was one making fun of Chris D'Elia.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember? You don't remember that?
Wow, was that a bombshell? Holy Christ!
Oh my God, no! It was the what was the oh no audio?
Yeah,
and he made a video making fun of it, and I was like, oh, interesting. And that video only got like 5,000 likes, but at the time when I had like not even 1,000 followers, I was like, I thought I was hot shit. Still. I didn't think that I was like any big person or anything. I think when I hit 10,000, I was like, this is it. I'm huge now. And then nothing changed. And I was like, oh shit. And still, like, the videos that I've made that like have the most viewers are always something that I just like shouted out into my phone, and then it like took off, and I was like, really, that shit? Like, okay.
Well, I mean, it's clearly a credit to your natural personality and ability to just sometimes just, say the inside parts out loud that other people are thinking,
I have always done that. It used to get me in trouble.
Well, now it gets you attention.
Yeah. And I do love the attention.
With that, I mean, we all, like, you and I are both on social media. You're a lot more predominant than I am. There is the attention out there that sometimes just comes out of nowhere. And recently you posted a couple of videos where you sat down, one-to-one, a heart-to-heart, you to the camera going like, please, just fucking explain. How do you prefer to deal with people who are just trying to egg you on or trying to get a negative reaction out of you?
I mean, it depends on the person. There are some people that are saying stuff that's so stupid that I'll just be like, hey, that's dumb. The thing you're saying is dumb. Like, I know, especially, so I was talking about homelessness in my town, and people will try and argue with me about that. I'm like, I know so much more about this than you do.
Yeah.
I don't need to take you seriously because you're not coming from a place of knowledge. If it's just some person with no videos, like no profile picture, nothing, and they're just saying shit to me, like, they're probably just being an asshole.
Yeah.
And they're not putting themselves out. I mean, I think that for people who don't have content, they may hear people say, like, if you don't have videos out there, I'm not going to take you seriously. It doesn't mean that you're not a functioning, successful, intelligent human being, but everybody has an opinion about everything.
Yeah.
And if you're not putting yourself out there in the way that other people are, I'm not going to react to you because you don't know what it's like to have people coming for you. Weirdly enough, the thing that people got the most angry at me about was because I called a food container Tupperware, and they were like, that's not Tupperware. That I did not take seriously. I was like,
really?
Okay.
Tupperware. Or whether or not it was Tupperware.
Yeah, she was like, that's Gladware. I was,
oh no.
Tupperware is a multi-level marketing company, so I don't, like, I'm not going to take you seriously. I don't care. Like, if somebody is being harmful in what they're saying, I will probably react differently. It's so case by case basis. I do think I've kind of pulled away from that, especially now with like all the call out videos and stuff. But for me, it has to be happening to me in order for me to call it out or react to it. Just because there's a lot of life experiences that I have not lived, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to call somebody out for something that's a life experience that I haven't lived.
Yeah. I just want to touch on the people who you will say something rude or will like try to get your goat when it comes to whatever topic it may be, and then you look at their profile and they're like, it's a generic photo and like a default photo, and there's nothing in their bio and there's nothing like that. So when I see something like that on my end, or like perhaps their username is just like random numbers and letters and whatever, to me it's the same as, like, I work in the radio industry. So if I messed up something on the radio, which, I mean, I'm human, I've been in the industry for quite some time, but I still make mistakes. If someone on the street just came up to me and said, hey, you said something blah, blah, blah wrong, and I don't know them from Adam, I don't know them at all, I have no idea what their background is, I'm not going to pay attention a whole lot. But if someone who I know is in the industry says, hey, you kind of messed up, like, okay, so there's a background there. They've taken the time to make themselves known. I recognize them, or at least I know something that they know about the industry. I will listen to them. When I look at a generic bio, or there's nothing there and there's no care, there's nothing there for me to see that they give a damn or they have any knowledge as to what they're talking about. So, like, I'm agreeing with the fact that if they don't take the time to fill out like blah, blah, blah from this area, truck driver, blah, then I'm not going to listen to you if you bring up an opinion about random thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I've put so much of myself online. I've talked about some of the most difficult things that have happened in my life on there. So if I always say, like, I want every single person who makes videos to at some point go viral, because it's not as great as you think it is. It's mostly just bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, it's just weird. It's so strange. And then a lot of times, when you post a new video and it starts being successful, like, I'll keep reading the comments, but at some point there's not a unique comment to be made.
It becomes an echo
chamber. And at some point I will literally just go through and, like, when I'm scrolling through comments, I might glance at them, but I barely even read those, because, like, everybody's saying the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah. No, I get that. So speaking of putting yourself out there online. You made a very, dare I say, risky but rewarding transition on your online persona and your content. How did you jump from TikTok to OnlyFans? Yeah.
This is so funny. So,
Yes.
I have been in a lot of long distance relationships. So I got super good at like taking naked pictures of myself, which is a skill.
It is.
It's a transferable skill set.
Okay. Yes.
I've also had a lot of people that I've dated have been like, have you ever considered this? Because I mean, naturally, I am a person that naturally has a very high libido. I just put it at that. And I've always said, well, I work in mental health. Like, all it would take is one client to find out what I like, that I have this thing on the side, and it would make work a living nightmare for me. It would be awful. I might get fired. I might lose my job. So then I wasn't, once I kind of knew that I'm never going back to the mental health field for a plethora of reasons, I continued to check in with myself and do some research. I never do anything. Well, no. I knew that this decision I couldn't go into like I do pretty much everything else.
Right.
A lot of things I'm just like, let's see how it goes. But this, I knew that I needed to be ready. Anything I put out online, I need to know that people can make fun of me for it. They can say disparaging things. They can, whatever they put out, like I put out, I need to be ready for backlash against that.
Right.
So I waited and I continued to check in with myself and think about it and do research and consider it. And then when I was ready, I started my OnlyFans, and I was expecting maybe 10 subscribers on the first day. I got 70.
Which is like awesome.
I know. I kept watching it go up, and I was like, what the
something wrong with this thing.
Yeah. At my max, I think I was at like 450, I think. I'm now at about 350, which is expected. I know that, and I've done it before.
Things will taper off. Yeah.
You like see someone and you're like, I wonder what that person looks like naked, and you like click, like you subscribe, and you're like, all right, now I know what they look like naked. Unsubscribe, which is fine. I mean, nobody ever owes me anything,
Right.
But honestly, it's so similar to my TikTok in a lot of ways, aside from like I'm not wearing clothes.
Right.
It's the engagement with my subscribers is wicked fun. People are so respectful of me. It's the most common message that I get from people is, I'm just going to say men, because overwhelmingly my subscribers are men. I think I have like 3 women who are subscribed to me, which, hey, look at me.
Right on.
But men will message me and they'll be like, is everyone being respectful? Is anyone being mean to you? Are they saying nasty things? Are they sending you pictures of their dick? You let me know, because that is not gonna fly around here. Like, it's so funny how I've like built up this persona of just like someone who, like, you are not going to violate my boundaries no matter where we are.
Right.
I may be a sex worker, I may be doing sex work, but you're not going to ask me for things that I don't explicitly offer. You're not going to trick me into giving you something that I wouldn't otherwise give.
Yeah.
And I think that has attracted the type of man who's attracted to a very, like, a strong,
assertive,
a woman with a strong personality. And my OnlyFans, I don't come off as like a porn star. And listen, that exists for a reason.
Yes,
there is no judgment for me from the girls who are like, on all fours, like, bang me. But my personality is the same on my OnlyFans as it is on my TikTok. I think one of the appeals for my page especially is that I'm extremely authentic on there, and I will just chat. Most of the messages that I send back and forth with my subscribers have nothing to do with sex. It's just like, hey, how's it going? I saw the little green bubble, figured I would check in, say hello, how you doing? It's great. I mean, it's probably more fun than my TikTok because A, I get to show off my boobs, and I like my boobs. I'm literally paid to get off, like what a dream job. And then I have so much control over it. Like, right. I've only had to block one person, and I think people know that. They know that I'm not going to deal with any bullshit. So they're so lovely to me. It's the exact opposite of what I think everybody expects my response to be, but people are so great on there.
Awesome. That's the type of thing I was hoping to hear, because again, like, I'm flattering you, but it's the honest truth. Like, it's a tribute to yourself, your personality, as well as the energy that you put out there, because you're getting it back like tenfold. And no matter where you are on social media, the people respond to you as they should. You're going to get the occasional jack off or anything like that, but the majority of the support and the reaction and the attention you get is equal to what you put out there. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. I had someone the other day say to me, like, your page is, like, everything you put out is great, but I'm here for you as a person. And I can obviously, like, on OnlyFans, I can joke around and talk about things that I'm not able to on TikTok, because I would get friggin' blocked. And it's just so flattering that, like, how many people can say they have an OnlyFans person following for their personality? Like,
not many at all. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it feels really good. But I also think that, like, I always say I have, like, the highest self-confidence of, like, any human being. And I think you need to already have that in order to present that way.
Gotcha.
Because
awesome.
The thing about self-confidence is it's myself. Nobody can take it away from me.
Yep.
So there's nothing somebody can say to me that I'm going to be like, oh, maybe I do suck. Maybe I am a dumb bitch. Like, no, I'm fucking great.
So what's next for Jenn? What's next for the energy that you put out there?
I'm starting to become a fully functioning person again.
Hey.
I've talked very openly and kind of alluded to it. I just got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and started taking a mood stabilizer, and the difference has been night and day. I'm just trying to figure out what makes me happy, and just engaging in a lot of my hobbies again. And I'm trying to get a serving job now just to get me out of the house. I don't, I'm, just to be clear, it's not like I'm making $1 billion or anything, but I can sustain my lifestyle off of my OnlyFans right now. But I do want to get out of the house now. I'm finding myself to be more sociable and wanting to interact with people in a way that I absolutely could not do even 3 months ago. So just kind of finding myself again is what I'm doing right now. And I don't know, like, occupationally, like, for my job, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but that's really not my concern right now.
Well, I mean, that's a comfortable place to be in life, honestly.
It's such a rare opportunity. It's so great. I feel very weird when I talk to, like, my friends with 40-hour-a-week jobs, and I'm like, yeah, I can't relate. Sorry about it. Ugh. I remember that. That was awful.
You should stop doing that.
Yeah. Sell your butt. People want it.
Where do you recommend people find you online on social media?
So my account is Bourbon for My Alpacas. People don't realize it, but it's a reference to a country music song. I also have my quote-unquote backup account, which is Beer for My Alpacas. And then on my OnlyFans account is Bourbon Pack, which is Bourbon PAC, and my name on there is Jenn Vicugna.
Awesome.
Which is the genus of an alpaca.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for your time, Jenn. And hey, you finally got it. You finally were a part of a podcast.
I did it!
Thanks for your time.
Thanks.